A kiddie table anyway. Now underway, we're going to take a look back at the last record-breaking debate in August. Plus, we'll talk to our own John Bachman, who's out at the Reagan Library in Simi Valley, California. And I hit the streets of Manhattan to find out if actual voters, even the liberal ones here in New York, will be watching the debate tonight. Of course they will. This is the Daily Wrap, live from New York City. And welcome to the show. I'm Joe Concha, joined by Rick Unger. It's the Super Bowl Part 2.
Debate Part 2. Very jazzed, very excited. We'll be here late into the night tonight.
Until 1 a.m.
I think we'll be here until 1 o'clock a.m.
That's good stuff.
I hope somebody brought, no, I can't say they brought the booze, huh? Yeah, well, I guess I'll have to go on the radio for that.
Wow. I don't think
It's a
you
party,
need
man.
alcohol
1 o'clock at
tonight,
night?
given the
This is-
entertainment value.
It's actually true. There's nothing I enjoy more than covering debates, covering elections. This is what you do this stuff for.
This is why we got into the business.
This is why we're here. It's going to be
Indeed.
great.
And there'll be 13 more debates after this on the Democratic and Republican side, so it never ends.
Not too many on the Democratic side.
That's right, the 6 only.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Roots. Anyway, to his right, stand-up comedian and writer, Joe DeVito is back.
Thanks, guys.
Good to see you. And finally, he's the editor of the WisdomDaily.com and president of the Ready for Chafee Super PAC. Brad Hirschfield is back once again.
Good to be here, I think.
Chafee
You're the
jokes
one.
never get old.
Jokes like that,
Yeah,
I don't
you're
know.
You're the one.
But it's
All
okay.
right. Let's get right to the Daily Download. And as we were talking about, tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern, Newsmax TV will be providing full coverage of the GOP presidential debates. All of your favorite Newsmax hosts will be involved, plus we'll have a special interview with Dr. Ben Carson. We also want you to be involved as well, so go to newsmax.com/judge to join our special instant poll, where you can vote for your debate winner. I wonder who that's going to be. Well, there's a lot at stake for those participating in the debate tonight. Will Trump triumph or tank? Alliteration. Can Jeb Bush break through and actually make an impact? Will Ben Carson continue the momentum he's created lately? Carly Fiorina, John Kasich, there's 11 people on stage. Who is gonna stand above the rest when it's all said and done? But first, let's take a look back at the memorable debate in August we mentioned before. Governor Jeb Bush, who may have a lot of campaign cash, hasn't been able to stand out yet in the election cycle. Currently, Mr. Bush is sunk to 6% in the polls. Apparently, name recognition ain't helping Jeb, but neither is his message on his policies.
But there are several opponents on this stage who get big applause lines in early voting states with this line. Quote, "The last thing the country needs is another Bush in the Oval Office." So do you understand the real concern in this country about dynastic politics?
Absolutely, I do. And I'm going to run hard, run with heart, and run to win. I'm going to have to earn this. Maybe the bar is even higher for me. That's fine. I've got a record in Florida. I'm proud of my dad, and I'm certainly proud of my brother. In Florida, they call me Jeb because I earned it.
Do you think
And besides, that's his name.
It's
Right.
Yeah.
Good point. Do you think he should even, and I know he loves his brother, I have a brother, I totally get it. Why even mention I love my brother? Why even remind people
It has-
of that brand name problem?
It's obviously been an issue for him. I think he actually, look, I remember when the last election wrapped up, I was with my friend Steve Forbes, going to name drop a little bit.
Yeah, a little
and
bit.
I said, Steve, I know you're a friend of Jeb's. I said, if I were you, I would get on an airplane, get down to Miami tonight, and make sure he runs for president. He says, well, what about his brother? I said, any one of us can write that speech in 10 minutes. The problem is nobody wrote the speech, and he hasn't really done the job he needs to do to separate from it, which is unfortunate, but he's still here.
Joe, people say that Bush should show more energy and he needs to be more confrontational, but that's not who he is. And if he tries to go down that road, then I have a feeling that people are going to say, well, now he's just trying to be somebody he's not. And authenticity is working in this election.
He's got to be something. He has to show some sort of a pulse, and I think that's the problem that, we look at these debaters, and Trump's going to crush all of them because he's going to be able to, run off at the mouth as he does. But look what it's done for Carly Fiorina. She's been able to break out of the pack.
Yeah.
You know, and of course right now we have the junior varsity also ran debate going on. So
Happy hour.
Yeah, I think that's their chance at the pregame here for those guys to get their shots in. But are they really doing that much worse than Bush when you look at the percentages he's at?
6% for Bush, and the ones at the kiddie table are basically 1%. Yeah, with all that money. And money doesn't seem, and I've been saying this since the beginning, money doesn't matter as much as it used to. Social media is an equalizer.
He hasn't spent much of it yet. We have to point that out.
Yeah, I think true.
Well, they're spending $24 million this week, Right to Rise, which is the biggest super PAC, $24 million on advertising in New Hampshire and Iowa alone. But I got to say, this is where the authenticity factor rings hollow. Have you seen the piece?
Yeah.
It presents Donald Trump as like Darth Vader, and I mean the music comes up, bum 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 bum. It's almost absurd. There's no substance to the attack, and then Jeb comes on, and it's actually a pretty uplifting, kind of compassionate conservative message, but no punch. Tell me how it's going to make a difference. Translate the goodwill, because I think he is a good guy.
You're missing the other butt, by the way.
Which you're going to tell me.
The ad that you are talking about. Says that, okay, we could, you know, they go after Trump for saying America can be great again. He says, no, it is already great. We're going to lift people up and give them more opportunity. And they show the sun rising above a field. And that field was in Cornwall, England.
No, really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So that was revealed. It's like, can't you at least get that right? There's 1,000 fields to choose from.
And that's the problem. It's like, this is the road to hell, good intentions. They have great intentions, but get something right. Because at the end of the day, that is one thing that Trump does do well. He gets it right, not on the policies, not on the ideas, Lord knows, not on the ideas, but he taps into what people are feeling, and he does it well.
Okay, well, Donald Trump, unlike Jeb, certainly not dead in the water. In the latest New York Times CBS poll, he leads with 27%. That seems to be a common number lately of the Republican vote. But he has been accused of not being conservative by other candidates, as well as Megyn Kelly during that last debate.
Mr. Trump, in 1999, you said you were, quote, very pro-choice, even supporting partial birth abortion. You favored an assault weapons ban as well. In 2004, you said in most cases you identified as a Democrat. Even in this campaign, your critics say you often sound more like a Democrat than a Republican, calling several of your opponents on this stage things like clowns and puppets. When did you actually become a Republican?
I don't think they like me very much.
Okay. So, Joe, do you think that Donald Trump is actually a conservative?
I don't think he's a conservative at all. But I don't think it matters. Well, if you look at his positions, he's a conservative Republican almost in the way that Bloomberg was a conservative Republican mayor. It's just that's the party that he was able to run through.
Wants to tax the rich, wants to go after hedge funds and Wall Street.
But I don't think it matters, and I think that's where the Republicans say, well, we need someone who's going to be more conservative. I don't think that connects with people. People want a winner, and they look at Trump. I'm surprised Trump hasn't asked for trap doors to be put under the other podiums of the debaters.
How do you know that he hasn't?
Yeah, well, we'll see.
No, like in Austin Powers where you press a button and they go backwards into a fire pit.
You know, because it's debate night, I'm going to be very respectful to Mr. Trump.
Really?
And I'm going to say he's not a progressive, certainly. He's not a conservative. I think he would tell you he is a populist.
Yeah. That's the key word. There's a populist strain in Republican history all the way back to the beginning, and he's the embodiment of it. He's tapped into it. He's also been willing to change and grow, and I think actually that's what he does a really good. It's hard to imagine change and grow with Donald Trump, but the truth is he has done that well.
I am going to disagree. Yeah. He's not the embodiment of it. What he says is the embodiment.
Yes, well that's a better corrected. He is not, which may be the best pivot of all time. Without actually having to become it, he has become the single best representative of it we've seen in a long time.
This is what vexes me. I'm extremely vexed, or I'm almost angry.
Vexish.
Don't I?
How many times are we going to say vex?
Well, it's a line from Gladiator.
You're vexing me now.
Where Russell Crowe keeps living, he goes, I'm vexed. I'm extremely vexed. Look, I don't understand how if you're a Mark Levin, right, conservative radio host, and you say, and we need a real conservative, not Romney, not McCain, not a moderate from New England, anything like that, right? You hear all these things, and then they say we want a true conservative on the ticket. And then they all support Trump, even though he isn't a true conservative. So everybody's being hypocritical at this point when they say, the only way we're going to win is with a true conservative, and now we're going to get the guy who wants to raise taxes on the rich, which at last check is not a conservative position.
Exactly. Exactly, and it's been hysterical to watch the conservative talk show hosts bend themselves into pretzels trying to figure out how to do it.
Justified, exactly. Okay, so who do you think is going to win tonight's debate? Suspense is killing me. Go to newsmaxtv.com/comments and let us know. Maybe we'll even read a couple on the air. And be sure to tune in at 10 p.m. Eastern tonight for our live debate coverage. You can even weigh in by registering our instant poll. It's all fun. Anyway, coming up next, more debate coverage. Stay tuned.
And welcome back to tonight's special debate show. We are going to go live to our very own John Bachman, who is covering the debate live at the Reagan Library. John, set the scene for us. Tell us what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what's going on down there right now.
Well, guys, it's a beautiful day here in Simi Valley, California. Earlier today here at the Reagan Presidential Library, we watched a lot of the candidates roll up. They walked around the debate stage, getting comfortable with the surroundings, everybody coming in one at a time. They're all now, the main candidates who are going to be participating in the main debate, they are back in their green rooms, which are really just trailers off the main stage. We're getting ready for the earlier debate to kind of get going here as well. One thing I think that will resonate throughout both of these debates is candidates trying to make some noise. We've seen this with Bobby Jindal very recently, coming out very strong against Donald Trump. Earlier today I had a chance to talk to him about the difficulties doing that when you're not actually going to be on the stage with Donald Trump, and how you do that here at the Reagan Presidential Library while trying to adhere to Reagan's 11th commandment. Here's what Jindal had to say.
The substance of Donald Trump is very different from the idea of Donald Trump. We've got a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to rescue the idea of America. Let's turn to our proven conservative ideas, not a narcissist who only believes in himself. He's borrowed Reagan's phrase, making America great again. That's wonderful. Reagan believed in that and applied conservative principles. Donald Trump just believes in Donald Trump.
Now, another candidate I'm going to be watching to see if he can break through tonight is John Kasich. John Kasich has been rising in the polls a little bit here, and we talked to some folks today about his ability to kind of be the candidate that can actually win a general election. I had a chance to talk to former Senate Majority Leader Trent Lott, senator from Mississippi, about why he is endorsing John Kasich. Here's what Trent Lott had to say.
When I go around the country, people are saying to me, what's wrong with Washington? They can't seem to agree on or get anything done. John Kasich has a long record of having achieved things in every step of his career. I think we're going to see that and hear it tonight.
Well, it doesn't hurt that he has a 60% plus approval rating in the state of Ohio, which last I checked, you can't win the White House without winning the state of Ohio.
Well, that's true. That's a very important state. But John has a lot of appeal in the South, too, where I'm from. My own state is really rallying for John Kasich. I think he's going to have good support across the South. And we're going to have an SEC voter day this year, which could be very interesting to watch the entire South vote on the same day.
Will be very interesting. Now, when folks say maybe John Kasich isn't conservative enough, we nominated a moderate last time. What do you say to those folks?
Look, I know John Kasich. I've known him well for 35 years. I served with him in the House. John Kasich is conservative on the budget, on the defense of our country. He knows foreign policy. He's been out there in the private sector and learned a lot of things there. He's been a very successful governor. He turned a deficit into a surplus. At every step along the way, John has been a successful conservative leader. But he also has a heart. What we're missing in Washington right now is one word. One word, leadership. John Kasich has that ability.
All right, so John Kasich, he has that leadership experience both as a governor, currently in Ohio, and as a past member of Congress. Is he going to be able to break through in this debate and kind of rise above the noise? We know that Ben Carson and Carly Fiorina are going to be going after Donald Trump. The other big difference I think you guys will notice in this debate compared to the last debate with Fox News, it's going to be a much smaller crowd, less than 500 people. Also some very prominently placed people like Sheldon Adelson. He'll be in the front row, so a lot of the candidates will be talking to him. So is it going to be foreign policy that folks are going to be talking about? Is it going to be domestic issues? Definitely there'll be a different feel to this debate for sure, and the candidates are going to be trying to go one-on-one. I think a lot of them, though, at the end of the day are going to be going against Donald Trump. Even Bobby Jindal in this debate where the candidates are just now getting on the stage, and then later on at night when Donald Trump will be bracketed by Jeb Bush on one side and Dr. Ben Carson on the other side. So it should be a very interesting evening. Back to you guys in New York.
Hey, John, before we let you go, I know you've got an advanced look at the chart where everybody's going to be standing. Can you tell us who's going to be center stage and getting most of the attention?
Well, in the main debate, the center stage is going to be Donald Trump. Directly to his right on screen is going to be Jeb Bush. Directly to his left on screen is going to be Ben Carson. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. Carly Fiorina is going to be off a little bit to the right, and the rest of the candidates, it's going to be hard for them to maybe go after Donald Trump. But I think the way the debate is kind of stacked up against Donald Trump, two of his biggest adversaries, at least as of late, are going to be on either side. And they're also very close together. With 11 candidates on stage, there's not a lot of room up there. So it could be very intimate in some of this head-to-head debating that is supposed to take place.
Okay, thanks, Don. We're going to look forward to speaking to you later as you join us for our continuing coverage of tonight's debate, which begins at 10 and goes well into the night. So, guys, I don't know. I mean, you got projections here. Let's start with you, Brad. Who do you think is going to be the star tonight?
Look, I think Kasich actually really could shine tonight, but I think the thing to watch for is watch for Carly to take her swipes at Donald, and he deserves them. All she has to do is say, when you said look at that face, what did you really mean?
Okay, so what you're predicting then is more personal stuff and less substance tonight, you think?
I think there's going to be at least from her, and I think that probably Carson will try and bring a kind of dignity to it, which he does. It's actually hard to often tell what he's specifically standing for. I think that will be at the center.
Joe, who's your dark horse choice?
I don't know. I think Kasich. I think Kasich, once people get to know him a little bit more, this is really a lot of yelling going on at this point. So once it settles down, I think that's where he's going to shine. People think he's
And this, Joe.
You know my horse.
Well, I know who you like, but who's it going to be?
Marco Rubio, I had winning the last debate.
Right.
We haven't heard a peep from him since. He's down to 2% in the polls.
Very interesting. Watch for Marco Rubio. Watch for Jeb Bush. Watch for Scott Walker to make some kind of a move tonight to become relevant again. Because if they don't,
he's gone.
They're done.
It's called a Hail Mary.
All right, so who do you think is going to win tonight's debate? We want to know. Go to newsmaxtv.com/comments. Let us know who you think is going to be the big winner. Also, be sure to tune in tonight beginning at 10 p.m. Eastern for our live debate coverage. You can even weigh in on the fun by registering for our instant poll where you can pick up tonight's winner. Sign up now at newsmax.com/judge. That's newsmax.com/judge. Coming up next, how many people are going to be watching tonight's debate? We'll give you the answer right after this.
And welcome back to Daily Wrap. Well, the time has almost come. No, not for a Joni Loves Chachi reunion. Oh. Yeah, I know. But time for the second GOP debate we've been rambling on about. And when it comes down to it, the winners and losers won't be decided by know-it-all pundits like Rick or Brad or Joe or me or anybody, but by the American people. So what is the general public anticipating going into tonight's debate? I spoke to a few on the sunny streets of Manhattan earlier today, allegedly.
So you will be watching the presidential debate?
Yes.
What are you looking for in that debate?
Some honest answers and not the same canned responses that people normally give.
Will you be watching the next presidential debate?
I will.
And who's your horse in the race right now?
I was initially a Trump guy, but I'm trying to turn for Carson right now.
Why Ben Carson from Donald Trump?
I think he's a little more calm, cool, and collective.
You're saying that Trump may fly off the handle once in a while?
On occasion, yes, he's been known to do so.
Maybe. We'll see.
Depends on what's on, right? I mean, if Real World Road Rules challenge is on, you got to go in that direction.
You gotta go there.
Absolutely. Wouldn't miss it.
And who's your horse in the race?
Actually, I would say that I think it's the time for Hillary.
Will you be watching the next presidential debate?
Most likely.
And who's your horse in the race at this point?
I don't have a horse. I don't have a favorite right now. I'm actually hoping for Jeb Bush, but he's kind of down on the numbers right now, so we'll have to wait and see as time goes further and more debates happen. Hopefully there'll be a clear favorite.
So will you be watching the next GOP presidential debate?
I will.
And do you have a horse in the race at all?
Yes, the Donald.
You vote for Donald Trump if the election were held tomorrow?
Absolutely. I think the Doc and Trump make a good team.
So you could see a Trump-Carson ticket then, Trump on top and then Carson being the VP.
That's what I'm hoping, unless, of course, our favorite gets in, Palin.
Sarah Palin.
Then it would be Trump and Palin. That would be the way to go.
I'm not sure how I feel about who's running for president, and I'm from Texas, and I understand Rick Perry will be there.
Actually, Rick Perry dropped out last week.
Okay, so I'm not up to date on the latest.
So will you be watching the next presidential debate?
I will.
And who's your horse in the race?
John Kasich.
I'm a Kasich guy myself.
How are you?
What do you like about the Ohio governor?
He's practical. He's conservative.
but practical. He's got a wealth of experience, both in Congress and in running a state. I think he's the guy.
Do you think Brian Williams can be trusted to be a good moderator?
If he can keep his tall tales to a minimum, I think so, yes.
And finally, do you think Brian Williams could do a good job tomorrow night as moderator?
He will, yes. I know he will.
Okay, great.
I can't imagine that Brian Williams will be the debate moderator, but that was a good trick question.
That's right. Will you be drinking or not drinking?
Not drinking.
Not drinking.
No. Yeah, I may want to drink afterwards, but during the debate I will not be drinking.
Will you be drinking during tomorrow night's debate?
Probably, well, it depends how interesting it is. If it's interesting enough, it'll keep my attention, I won't have to.
I have a feeling that you won't have to.
Yeah.
Get your Patron and popcorn ready. So interesting that Brian Williams is being brought in by CNN to moderate tonight's debate.
Are you surprised?
Not at all. I mean, look, he's a major newsman. Maybe Jake Tapper doesn't have the stature that a Williams does. I asked this actually of about 15 people, and 14 of the 15, outside of that one gentleman, completely were like, I think he will, as long as he doesn't tell any tall tales.
Well, they'll bring in a helicopter instead of the plane as the backdrop.
Exactly. So as you know, during Man on the Streets, normally you find a lot of stupid or misinformed people. A lot of people here were very much in tune with what's going on. They had very better than you guys in terms of analysis.
That's not saying anything.
Of course, damning with faint praise there.
You know, this is New York. You get some very sharp people out there. We had a guy one night that I had done. I was ready to give him my seat.
Really?
Yeah.
God, you didn't follow through.
Well, I'm sorry. You know, I know you're disappointed. There are limits.
What I was shocked though was I met a lot of people who are saying I'm voting for Trump.
Yeah.
Trump. There was a couple of Kasich sprinkled in. One Carson, as we saw, and then one guy for Hillary, which I expected more Democratic type of answers. And then two people said they'd vote for Obama again. So it's fascinating when you get out there and you actually speak to people. We certainly live in a bubble, and we don't get the way people are thinking out there, and they're just not. You know, they're not doing this every night, so they just have a general feeling and they go with it, like when you're picking a horse but not reading the program. Joe?
Yeah, I think it's interesting if you look at the people voting for Trump. I think the GOP is getting a good balance of people who are going to watch the debate, people in the audience, and people on stage are all coming out to be about the same number now. So that they're going to have they'll have a complete three-way split of people actually running and people actually watching.
That's true. What do you think of the proposal of a Trump-Palin ticket, Brad?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh at them, but since it's not going to it's comical. I think what's interesting about all the people supporting Trump and Carson is the common denominator is they haven't been politicians. People want something fresh.
And on that fresh direct note, who do you think is going to win tonight's debate? Go to newsmaxtv.com/comments and share your thoughts. And also be sure to tune in tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern, that's 5 on Hawaii, for our live debate coverage. You can even weigh in on the fun by registering for our instant poll, where you can pick tonight's winner. Sign up now at newsmax.com/judge. That's newsmax.com/judge. Coming up, we're going to take a look back at the first debate. It certainly was memorable. Lots of sound. Stay tuned.
And welcome back to the Daily Wrap. We're going to continue with our trip down memory lane. Former HP honcho Carly Fiorina has been getting a little traction, and this time around she'll be at the adults table for tonight's debate. During the last Fox debate, Fiorina made headlines with this comment.
Hillary Clinton lies about Benghazi. She lies about emails. She is still defending Planned Parenthood, and she is still her party's front runner. 2016 is going to be a fight between conservatism and a Democrat Party that is undermining the very character of this nation. We need a nominee who is going to throw every punch, not pull punches, and someone who cannot stumble before he even gets into the ring.
So, Brad, Carly Fiorina has tossed morality a number of times into this primary. How big of a place will this add up to as we go into the primary season? Will morality be a big deal?
Yeah, I think it will, and I think it will before we get to the general. It already is. Let's face it, Hillary has lost 29 percentage points in her support among women, and it's only about one issue. they don't trust her. I'm not even taking a position what she did or she didn't do.
Right.
The truth is the American voting public cares deeply about morality and ethics. That's not the same as when values voters say it's all about religion or one kind of religion. That I don't think is true. But I do think the American public thinks that trustability, not just likability, that values, that morality matter. It's not a narrowly defined category, but you got to be able to be straight with people, and she's calling that out.
This is, Joe, this is always our approach to things. We tend to all believe that America has this puritanical streak and that we do care about things like this. However, if you look at polls relating to who was our best president in modern history, Bill Clinton tends to do very well. When it came time to try and impeach Bill Clinton, everybody knew that it wasn't going to happen because the American public wanted him to remain president. So do we talk a morality game, but then we don't really care, because what we really care about is which one of these people is going to put more money in our wallet?
I think we talk about morality as long as you don't get too specific. As long as it's very vague, then people are in favor of it. It's kind of like when you talk about cutting government spending. Everyone's like, we've got to do that, until you mention something in their state, and then they say, well, I don't think that's such a great idea. I think that's one of the reasons why Trump is connecting, because for whatever kind of crazy things he says, you absolutely know he's not saying it to impress anyone or to trick anyone into thinking he means anything other than what he said, which will change from time to time depending on what sort of whims are going on inside that head of his. But I think that's what's connecting with people.
So, other Joe. Conch, we'll call you tonight. Since
Please call me Conch.
We have two Joes.
Going forward completely.
So this Joe says that the whole morality issue may be playing into Trump's backyard. But you know what? Can you say you're a moral person if you're willing to take swipes at people's appearances, if you're willing to demean women as being, what did he call them, fat pigs? You know, we all got from that first debate.
Yeah.
Can you really call yourself a moral person?
I think that Donald Trump speaks the way we all do when we're behind closed doors, and then we don't admit it in person.
Except that he's not doing it behind closed doors. He's doing it very much in the open.
Okay. Does it matter then, really? If you're saying something derogatory about something behind their back as opposed to out in the open?
Well, that's a great question.
So here's how I think it does matter. There's three issues here. One of them is personal morality. I think people will cut you some slack. When you go public with those utterances, then they up the ante on you, as they should. The reason Bill got away with it, and this is the last level, people can live with people who have moral flaws in their personal lives, but not when they lie to the public about the public.
So, speaking of morality and religion, Governor Mike Huckabee has made a religion a benchmark of his campaign. According to the last CBS poll, Huckabee still sits at 6%, even after coming to Kentucky clerk Kim Davis's assistance when she refused to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples. During the last debate, Huckabee hammered Planned Parenthood.
It's
watch.
time that we recognize the Supreme Court is not the supreme being, and we change the policy to be pro-life and protect children instead of rip up their body parts and sell them like they're parts to a Buick.
Guys, you know, you would think that Huckabee, as was the case the last time he ran, would be the absolute darling of the evangelical community. If not him, I don't know, maybe Ted Cruz. Neither of them are. It's the evangelical community has lined up behind who?
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
And Ben Carson.
And Ben Carson.
The latest poll shows 32 for Trump, 28 for Carson.
But how can the evangelicals be supporting Trump over a Mike Huckabee? Explain that to me.
Mike Huckabee, he's past his due date. You know, I mean, same with Santorum, right? I mean, 2008, 6 years ago he peaked. And now we have to get excited about him again? Go back to Fox and play the bass.
Do you think that Huckabee maybe hurt himself in taking this position that the supreme being means more than the Supreme Court? Hold the answer, because we got to go on, but we'll get you in the next segment. Who do you think is going to win tonight's debate? I'm losing my voice, sorry. Go to newsmaxtv.com/comments and share your thoughts. Also, be sure to tune in tonight beginning at 10 p.m. Eastern for our live debate coverage. We're going to have special guests that include Ben Carson, Dick Morris. All of them, plus your normal anchors here, will be joining in. You can even weigh in on the fun yourself if you register at newsmax.com/judge. Coming up next, more debate highlights, all for you.
And welcome back to the Daily Wrap. Special pre-debate coverage, even though there is a debate going on right now. If you didn't know it, the kiddie table is still going, we believe. Yep, and actually, we've been told by our people that are watching this for us while we're trying to present entertainment to you, is that George Pataki pointed out that the first 4 questions that came to him were about Donald Trump, till the point where he said, "Are you going to ask me about anything else?"
I got to tell you, I haven't even tuned in yet, and I'm already disappointed.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I really thought CNN might take advantage of the opportunity to push substance, and already, you know, I've been tracking it on Twitter here. Already, Bobby Jindal has stuck with his figuring out that the only way he's ever going to get attention is by saying the name Donald Trump. Then somebody will write about him. So he starts right from the start.
Of course.
Guys, you know what? They had an opportunity, those 4, because they have time. Right. Yeah. And they have a platform, and it sounds like they are absolutely squandering it.
It sounds like it too.
Stupid.
Well, Lindsey Graham actually...
It's Republicans for you, man.
Yeah, I get my stop it. Lindsey Graham actually is going off at 66-1 to win the nomination. You know who he's trailing? This is by London bookmakers.
Yeah.
He's trailing John McCain, who ain't running. That is not a joke. That is
Well, but you know
stuff.
what? Lindsey spends most of his time trailing after John McCain, doesn't he?
Got a good play.
Yeah,
Look at
so
that play by Ricky. Anyway, my man, Governor John Kasich, didn't see a lot of action in the first debate, but he was asked about his position on gay marriage. Gave a great answer.
I'm an old-fashioned person here, and I happen to believe in traditional marriage. But I've also said the court has ruled.
But how would you explain your child?
Megan, the court has ruled, and I said we'll accept it. And guess what? I just went to a wedding of a friend of mine who happens to be gay. Because somebody doesn't think the way I do, doesn't mean that I can't care about them or I can't love them. So if one of my daughters happened to be that, of course I would love them and I would accept them, because you know what? That's what we're taught when we have strong faith.
Before you weigh in, anybody weighs in, you heard the crescendo of people cheering and clapping, right? Because that was in Ohio, and obviously home court advantage for Mr. Kasich. All that said, tonight they're not allowed to cheer, and they're not allowed to boo, and it's only going to be about 500 people, like John Bachman pointed out.
The poor man probably doesn't have a chance. He suffers from being rational.
No, he does have a chance, and that was about
sensible.
more than Ohio. That was about more than Ohio, and it helps to answer Rick's question from before about why Huckabee is not the darling of the evangelicals. Because evangelicals, contrary to what most non-evangelicals think, are not all fire and brimstone. They are actually the embodiment of what John Kasich did on that stage. He believes in tradition. He believes in traditional marriage. He also believes in loving your neighbor. He also believes there's a dignity in other views that you don't share. That doesn't mean you should be silent in the face of them. It just means you don't have to slaughter the opposition because you happen to disagree.
Joe, do you agree with Rick in terms of the fact that is his
view...
Right. You don't even have to hear the question. Is Kasich's view deemed by some conservatives as too progressive when he even gives a completely rational answer like that?
I certainly hope not, because that's almost a perfect answer in terms of, I think, satisfying everyone and not in the sellout kind of way. And I think
seems genuine, yeah.
Yeah, seems genuine, and that's the way I think it really should be. He said you have to respect the law, but you respect people's dignity. And that's why Huckabee has made this mistake with aligning himself with Kim Davis, who, I don't care where you stand on the gay marriage debate, she's a petty bureaucrat enforcing her own wills on people in an illegal way. And she's an unlikable person.
Good stuff. Okay, well, Senator Marco Rubio, who is tied for 3rd place, according to the last CBS New York Times poll, with Senator Ted Cruz, Governor Mike Huckabee, and Governor Jeb Bush, was asked about his position on abortion.
If you believe that life begins at conception, as you say you do, how do you justify ending a life just because it begins violently through no fault of the baby?
Well, Megan, first of all, I'm not sure that that's a correct assessment of my record. I would go on to add that I believe all
You don't favor a rape and an incest exception?
I have never said that, and I have never advocated that. What I have advocated is that we pass a law in this country that says all human life at every stage of its development is worthy of protection. In fact, I think that law already exists. It's called the Constitution of the United States.
All right, Rick, I had Rubio winning the last debate, and then he sank slowly, didn't get any momentum out of it whatsoever. What does he have to do?
It's so interesting. If you close your eyes, I actually did this. I went back and I listened to the first debate, and I literally closed my eyes throughout the entire thing. So I wasn't seeing the image of the people. Marco Rubio clearly was the best performer in that debate. The problem that he has is that when you open your eyes, he looks like he's running for president of Sigma Chi fraternity.
Sigma Chi is a good fraternity.
I think this is what's hurting him. I
Derby
truly
days.
do. You give Marco Rubio another 4 to 8 years, I don't know if he'll stay in politics because he's not going to be running for the Senate again. I think he is incredibly viable. Right now, you know, maybe vice president because he is from Florida. But
wow, so you pulled a Nixon-Kennedy in 1960 where they say if you listen to the radio, Nixon won the debate. If you watched it, Kennedy did because of all the sweating and perspiration and whatnot. Hey, what do you think? And who do you think is going to win tonight's debate? Let us know by going to newsmaxtv.com/comments. Also, be sure to tune in tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern, live debate coverage. You can weigh in, and the debate coverage is incredible. We got Ben Carson, we got Dick Morris, we got Rick Unger. What more could you want? So sign up now at newsmax.com/judge. That's newsmax.com/judge. Let us know who you think is going to win. Up next, it's time for Yay or Nay. This is the Daily Wrap. And welcome back to Daily Wrap. Before we get going, we want to let you know we'll be live tweeting during the debate tonight. If you want to join the conversation, use the hashtag NewsmaxTV. Rick uses his thumbs. Interesting. I sometimes go like that. I'm usually on a computer. The phone, I never can type it. It gives me words that don't exist. Anyway, it's time for Yay or Nay. First up, the second GOP debate is already underway. Kiddie table anyway. But did you know that some of the candidates already debated one another last night? We got the footage. It's true.
It's time for the debating game. And here's your host, President Barack Obama.
Good evening, my fellow Americans, and welcome to the debating game. I'm Barack Obama, and I'm your host because, frankly, I'm over being president. Anyway, look, tonight we have 3 very eligible GOP candidates out to win the support of one lucky, undecided voter. Let's meet them. Candidate number 1 is currently leading in the polls. You know him, you hate him, but you also kind of love him. Give it up for Donald Trump.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Candidate number 2 is the former governor of Florida and speaks fluent Spanish. Say hola to Jeb Bush.
Guacamole.
And candidate number 3 is a Southern gentleman currently polling at a whopping 0%. He's not even sure if he's voting for himself. Give it up for Lindsey Graham.
Tiddlywinks, y'all.
Wow. These are real people who could one day run this country. Just let that sink in for a moment.
Fallon's Trump is the best.
Jimmy.
I mean, Jimmy Fallon, if Trump wins, for the kind of like with Tina Fey with Sarah Palin.
Yeah, he's the man.
He's the man, indeed.
He's so good at it.
They showed one part of this, which was tremendous, where Bush is just talking, and he just sinks into the stage. Like his poll, he's like, oh, come on. So anyway, it's changing the debate format to be more like the dating game, a better way to get to know the candidates. Yay or nay, Joe DeVita?
I'm going to say nay because I don't want to know what the weirdest place Lindsey Graham's made whoopee is going to be. So I don't need to get that involved in his personal life.
I actually do want to know that.
You do?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
Well, he is.
Sounds a lot more interesting than anything he's currently saying.
He is a bachelor. Let's move on. Well, let's get back to the debate and see how the candidates did with some other questions.
Rachel, are you ready to meet your candidates?
I sure am.
Great. Let's light this dumpster on fire. Rachel, take it away.
Candidate number 2. Family is very important to me. I want to know about your family. Do you have any siblings?
Me? No, I do not.
You sure about that, muchacho?
Yep. Just me, only child.
What about George W.?
Who dat? Time's up.
Okay, let's get this thing over with, please. Last question. Rachel, make it count.
Candidate number 1. As a female voter, I want to know how you plan to address gender bias and fight for women's issues.
Now look, I love women. I cherish women. I've married billions and billions of women. I think they're fantastic. Gender-wise, I'd easily put them in the top 2, maybe 3. They're great. Great gender.
Anything more specific you'd like to add?
Boobs.
Yep. I think it's the first time we've heard that word on this network.
What did he say?
Boobs.
Boobs.
Oh. As this,
I
you're a
missed it.
boob,
Somebody
you're
was
a
talking
heel.
about it.
You're a heel, you're a boob.
Yes,
That's what
yes.
we mean for some of the folks at home.
Can we say that on TV?
Apparently we can.
Apparently they can on
We
Jimmy
just did.
Fallon's show.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. Well, gentlemen, any last predictions on the debate tonight? Who wins?
I'd like to see Kasich win. I'm holding out hope. I'm interested to see what Carly does to the Donald.
You like Kasich now? Boy, I've conformed you. Go ahead.
Carly locks down #1 contender for vice president.
Wow.
Watch the dark horses, see if Bush or Walker can grab some attention.
Okay, the Hail Marys will be out in full force. That's all for tonight. I'm Joe Concha on behalf of Rick Unger and the rest of our esteemed panel. I thank you for joining us tonight. Be sure to join us at 10 p.m. Eastern tonight for live debate coverage. The Steve Ballsberg Show. That's next.